We're live on a Saturday night. There's symmetry there. Saturday night live. Um, I This is kind of an impromptu broadcast because I've been working to get my voice back to its normal baritonic, supreme vocal stewardship. How's that for just wordsmithing? In any event, state of the Bay Area. And I'm going to talk about Bill Wattenberg in a second because he was Saturday and Sunday, especially Saturday, appointment radio um, on not just a KGO basis, but all over the map. Radio, television, the whole nine yards. But um, so we've had the whiplash weather hit us full force. And they don't talk about that. I've always complained. I said, if you're going to talk about the weather, for God's sakes, so much, and the weather is the weather. We don't really have weather here. We don't have blizzards. We don't have monsoons and cyclones. And, we have floods every now and then and rain events. But that's even not the weather that they have on the west coast, on the east coast, the Midwest, with tornadoes and all the shit that we have. We do have this whiplash weather, which they've coined whiplash, meaning sometimes it's warm, it could be downright hot. We haven't been in that situation yet, but the connection here is on Saturday it was downright, and it is freezing. And there's consequences of that. People are sick all over the place. The hospitals, the emergency units are full of people with the flu and with ailments and viruses all over. I keep talking to you folks and telling you, and I've heard this. You probably have heard this. Doctors, you've gone on your physicals, you've gone in to complain that you don't feel that great. And all I keep hearing, and you too probably, there are so many things going around. And a lot of it is caused by this whiplash weather. You'd figure they would talk to the doctors and talk to various health people and say, is there really a connection with this weather, which is up and down in the middle and up and down and all, but they don't do that. They just keep giving you 6-day forecasts and repeat the same shit that they do over and over and over. It's a gripe. You know who would talk about it and would, in fact, talk about it and have a doctor on and make it interesting, which, you keep talking to doctors and all that, it can be boring, was my favorite KGO MVP, I called him. And there were many. But Bill Wattenberg was not only the smartest man in the world, as his introduction would always kind of say that he hated that, but he was. This is the guy that got cozy with Dr. Teller, the father of the H-bomb, and would interview Dr. Teller. Swear to God. And he was scientist. He was therapist. He would tell you there are so many things. And I use this one still today. He would tell you, don't put extra unleaded, the real expensive gas in your car, unless you have like a Corvette or some, whatever. A lot of you are driving electric vehicles, so this is somewhat, doesn't apply, but you know what I mean. He would make it a point to talk to people who would call, say, Dr. Bill, this is Bart in Livermore. Do I put extra octane, high octane, which is more expensive gas? And some gas prices could be 10, 15 cents, 20 cents higher. And Bill said, let me tell you something. I'm doing my Bill Wattenberg impression. Bart, no, that's all bull. And he would have said bullshit, but, he couldn't say that because it was terrestrial radio. But he would always argue that you couldn't put, and these are his words. I love this analogy. You can't put Chivas Regal in your gas tank. And he would absolutely tell all the various people that that was all gas company, the oil company's way of getting even more money out of the average consumer. And the people that had the high-end Toyotas, the Lexuses, then the Nissans, I guess the Infinities, they'd follow the BS. They'd always put the real expensive gas into their car. And it really didn't make any difference other than, say, a Corvette. Yeah, less pinging. And usually the people that did all this, you didn't care about the people that could afford it. It was the people that couldn't afford that still would put that expensive gas into their gas tank. It made no difference. And all it did was enrich the various oil people, the oil companies and their stockholders. So that was one of my favorite. Wattenburg, if you remember, early in the 70s, if you grew up in the Bay Area, Bill Wattenburg was on the BART board. And he was already criticizing, yes, BART. You want to talk about oversight, about how the fact that why didn't Marin County vote for BART? You'll notice still today, BART doesn't go to Marin County. Why? Because they didn't vote for it. Why doesn't BART go to San Mateo County other than the airport and farther down? They finally got it to San Jose. But and Wattenburg was so in on that. He said that would be a problem. It didn't happen until late in the game. My biggest and best one I saved for last, and I'll think of another one. Can you imagine Wattenburg today talking about all this talk and discussion with regards to all the fires, the forest fires, and all that? And he would just go nutty. I wish he was alive today. People say that with all these forest fires that we had. Timeout. Bill Wattenberg, we lost about 7 years ago. But he had his entire body, his mental nudge on the pulse. And he predicted that we were going to have runaway forest fires. That we needed to get rid of some of this excess forest fire direct ammunition, all these trees and all that. And he used to kick ass and lambast people like all the environmental agencies that wouldn't allow and fought against trimming and getting rid of all this unnecessary trees, the eucalyptus trees. He said it would become eventually a disaster. And boy, did it ever. It started out in the fall of 2017. We had all the fires in Santa Rosa and the North Bay. We know what happened in Paradise. It just happens. Now, the last couple of years, we haven't had one of those. We've been lucky, but it's inevitable because look what's happening. Oh my God, I wish he was around. Look what happened in LA. No longer would these forest fires do all the damage in these less published or less what am I trying to say? The area, the country areas, the areas with not many people, that it would eventually, as he predicted, would become part of the territory near our cities, like Los Angeles, and no less early January, when those fires in the Palisades and up near Altadena and Pasadena and all those fires, that if you go down to LA and see what has happened and what has transpired, Wattenberg was on that. He railed about it. He talked about it. This was not some kind of a thematic show. It was a part of his repertoire. And people thought, oh, this guy, he's kind of nutty, or not nutty, but he says a lot of things. Who knows? Well, he knew. Most of all, folks, those of you that listen to Dr. Bill, as he was called, he was not only the smartest man, he could tell, forecast stuff that would take place, the fires, the situation with Bart. He railed against all the environmental agencies, some of them who had good intention, but he got ticked off. He used to say they were nothing but bureaucrats and this, that, and the other. You know what? He was right. But beyond all of that, Wattenberg was entertaining as all hell. He'd get people that call up. He'd have little kids call and ask little science questions. He said there was no such thing as a stupid question. Some of his best moments were off topic. They were unusual. And I remember this vividly. He'd have people call in, and he didn't look to pick a fight. But if you were from, and I'm going to give again my best, hopefully, Bill Wattenberg impression, and he would, like, these Berkeleyites would call in, and they would, talk about certain things that were anathema to Dr. Bill's wordings, thinkings, and all that. And he would become irritated, especially if they were calling, which a lot of them did, Berkeley. Where's Berkeley? What's in Berkeley? That would be the only notable thing about Berkeley. Of course, UC, Berkeley, Cal, where Wattenberg got his PhD. But he was there. He knew the terrain. He knew the geography about everything. And he would, let's go to Tony. Tony, you're on KGO, Dr. Bill. What do you want to talk about? Hey, Bill, you're all garbage on the environment. We need to have a strong environment. We need to have clean air and all that. Well, of course we do. But you rile up Wattenberg. And he would, I'm laughing now because it was hysterical. Hey, again, this is, think Wattenberg. Close your eyes. Hey, pal, how many dope smokes have you had tonight, you punk? Get off your ass. That's what he would say. And meanwhile, he came on the air at 10 o'clock. It was 10 to 1. It was the open line to the West Coast. Remember all that? You're on the open line to the West Coast. We can be heard throughout the universe and all that. But he would really get into it, and he would take offense to people, and he would often become kind of, rude, but it was hysterical radio. People have asked me, who are some of your favorite TV people, radio people, whatever? Dr. Bill Wattenberg. And he had a really interesting life. He married a woman considerably younger than he was. And they had kids. And, he lived in virtually all parts of the Bay Area. But he did his show, and I'm going to put up a picture, which you'll see. He did a show from way high up in the Sierra Mountains. And it was his outpost studio. And he had the big clock, and he would talk, and it was really cool. Now, if you were there, that was even cooler. But the only person that was there was him. Of course, they had an engineer at the studio where KGO was housed. But Wattenberg, he had such an eclectic way of doing his show that it was beyond just the normal information and this, that, and the other. Entertaining shit was he good. And it was 2 nights. And sometimes he would fill in for Ron Owens or Jim Eason. But it was mostly his 10 to 1 show on Saturday night, you guessed it, and Sunday. And he knew everything about earthquakes, the fires, the floods. He talked about environmental jabberwocky, and he would discuss all those things. Sometimes he'd even go layman and talk about, and he'd have a guest on talking about jewelry. Um, he would talk about other things. But one thing that he had you was the fact that, I keep repeating this word, entertaining and funny. And when he died, he had a son who sounded immensely like him, could never keep up the Bill Wattenberg angle, though. And I think at one time he worked in Santa Cruz. He worked up in Oregon. I think you can still catch him doing a show. Now, truth be told, it's not the same. It's not the same, and that's unfortunate. But I mean, nobody ever expected it to be the same. But Dr. Bill was, and this was evident. A lot of people didn't know this. He was so good. He was so powerful. He was so compelling. He was one of the highest paid part timers at KGO. Didn't need the money. He'd made millions and millions of dollars doing research work for the government, knew everything. This was one of his big to-dos also, was nuclear energy. He was involved at Berkeley doing all these various tests and studies and all that, became a big nuclear advocate, nuclear energy advocate. So you don't get many people like this, obviously. It was a once in a generational figure. He made listening to the radio, and hell, you're in bed, it's dark, it might have been pouring rain, whatever. You had your ears glued to KGO at 10 o'clock. And Wattenberg was just an utterly interesting character on many fronts. He was smart. And even if you disagreed with him, and there were plenty of issues to do just that, he made it a deal, big time, to listen at that time of the night and wherever he was. And great guy. I know a lot of people who have some capacity, some central court to KGO, understand why I'm being so emotional about this. He was a dynamite person, one of the best ever that KGO ever had. I continue to think about him. And real quickly, if you want to get a piece of Wattenberg, I'm sure you can go here, YouTube, and just plug in Bill Wattenberg, type it in, and you'll be able to hear him. And, it's not as germane as it was back then when he was live, but it'll give you an idea. Those of you that don't know what the hell I'm talking about, or those of you that do but want to hear, it is really just an incredible listen. Always Bill Wattenberg.